Oi, mate, you riding the chunder bus? And welcome to the next edition of the Rancor Pit. Got my newest book. I've been after this one for a long time. And it's hard to get a hold of, actually. It's a pain in the ass. So, last time I talked to you guys, I said we were going to go ahead and look into one of my recently created prestige classes, which did come with a bit of twofold inspiration. The first one was, okay, it was from a video game. You're going to have to excuse me. The problem is with me using a video game inspiration for this prestige class is the fact that I didn't play any of the games in the series. It was from Final Fantasy VII. The character's name was Waka. I know he's like one of the most useless characters from what I understand in the entire game, but it did intrigue me enough to actually look into doing something with the concept. So I borrowed from that. And the other inspiration that I took from was actually from one of my viewers, who's also a YouTuber, who's also one of my gamers in my campaign. And his YouTube ID is Revan Bespoke, and I'll make sure to put it description somewhere, anywhere. I'll put a link to his page. And we were basically having a conversation about something, and I'd asked for, I think it was for like British like footballer or soccer lingo, and then he kind of came up with the response of, "Hey, you're not going to make like half orcs playing football, are you?" And I didn't say anything at the time, but I was already in the mix and making it. I just wanted some actual lingo pieces that I can draw from basically the craziest country in the world, short of like Brazil, who just loves their damn soccer. So he's a Brit, figure that. So I got his help in the beginning of inspiration, and then I ran with the rest of it whenever I created it. It is a prestige class. It is meant for D&D 3.5, and I have not made anybody yet with it. I did finish the actual prestige class write-up, though. So, yep, they're called Hooligans. So, what I'm going to do is read what I actually have written for the description of what they are, what they do, and why they do it. And then I came up with stat blocks and basic requirements, and then the actual meat and potatoes of it all. I wanted to come up with something that didn't have anything to do with enchanted weaponry. I kind of hemmed and hawed with that one for a while. I thought, well, it would just be another, adventurer looking to go to a arcane or divine caster to put more magic onto a weapon. There's no flavor, there's no originality. It doesn't add anything to the game. So I had to come up with something that didn't have anything to do with it, actually, and that it was unique enough that would be interesting for other people to play. Now, apparently, Revan Bespoke, his real name is Dan Courtney. He said he wants to play the first one. I said, no, I have to play the fourth one because I got to see if I had to play test it. Everything I make, I play test. So I have to see if it's even going to be feasible. So let's go ahead and dive into the actual description of it. So they're called Hooligans. Rowdy, ballsy, and just plain menaces to society, the Hooligan uses high athleticism, conditioning, and pure brute force to achieve mastery over medium-ranged and powered combat maneuvers, using a spherical, air-inflated ball called a goon. Again, more lingo. So the ball is officially called the goon. Acting like a criminal, these lawless individuals sometimes turn to hustling to make ends meet. When intimidation doesn't pan out, or the local law enforcement opts for death over incarceration for such crimes. Sometimes loners, there are occasions when several hooligans will match up and form a crew of 5 to 8 members. And on rare terms and conditions, there might even be a cohesion enough to bind them into what's known as a goon squad, turning more into a brotherhood or sisterhood than just a pack of thugs. And in the case of multiple crews and squads finding turf hard to come by in bigger towns and cities, The turf wars are long, bloody, and personal. These rare instances even find guilds, or what I'm calling cliques, which will inevitably be the faction that I create for these guys, of crews and squads adhering to a very loose set of rules and guidelines, kind of like a criminal syndicate blood oath. The goon itself is a super hardened and tempered hide of creatures of a more powerful natural armor and even damage reduction in some cases. Rigid as a rock due to the alchemical tempering, these seemingly benign toys break everything they hit from bones to steel, yet can be wielded and thrown and kicked by a hooligan, as if it were made of pliable dough-hide. The hooligan isn't taken seriously only once. The pile of bodies and pools of blood left in his wake ensure that nobody's laughing at him carrying a ball into a fight. So that was the initial write-up that I had written for this. I did kind of go like extreme, like footballer with the idea, because I wanted to kind of make him like a criminal syndicate almost, but a loosely affiliated one. I'm still going to make the faction using the Player's Handbook 2 for that. I hadn't got around that yet. So, the prereqs and the write-up. Requirements. To become a hooligan, a character must fulfill the following criteria. The alignment must be chaotic any, so it's already primed for people who are lawless, literally. Base attack of 5. Skills, you need climb 4 ranks, intimidate 4 ranks, jump 4 ranks, perform busker 4 ranks, and tumble 4 ranks. I did the profession busker because in places where they can't, strong arm for money or extort or rip off or whatever due to real law enforcement being in the area, at least they would have the ability to perform in public some athleticism and tricks using the goon, so that they can make a little bit of money, so they wouldn't have to rip off every old lady they see. And then feats requirement is run and endurance. Makes sense because of what they are and what they can do. Their features will be having a D8, and their skills will be based off 4 plus intelligence modifier. I was originally going to go base attack like a fighter. I have since cut it back. And it's still respectable. It's a 10 level prestige class. By 10th, you'll have an extra plus 6 to your base attack. Fairly respectable. By 10th, you'll also have plus 7 to your fortitude, plus 6 to your reflex, plus 3 to your will. I didn't see these guys as particularly disciplined, therefore their will check should be a little on the lighter side. Kind of can't talk them out of doing something, kind of can't change their mind once they've made it up kind of people. And their class skills are balance, climb, craft, escape, artist, hide, intimidate, jump, knowledge, history for a reason. Knowledge local, which makes total sense. Listen, perform, sleight of hand, spot, swim, tumble, and use rope. With the history, it's like the local battles and stuff like that had happened, and battlefields that are no longer like around. So I decided it was another knowledge, nothing wrong with that. A hooligan gains no additional weapons or armor proficiency and cannot use any of the special abilities in any armor heavier than light. I wanted mobility over high-end AC. These guys are obviously more offensive than defensive. So one of the first things that they get at first level is called goon training. They'll be getting several different types of goon training as they go up, but the first one they get, here's what it does. A hooligan does not use magically imbued weapons and armor like typical classes do. Instead, they bestow certain properties upon their goon, the ball, which they use for combat and defensive purposes. There are 6 known and popular types of hide for choices. Rhino, dragon, howler, kraken, dire shark, and viper. Though fantastical in nature, these are baseline goon hides, requiring a leatherwork craft check at DC 15 as per a high-quality item. The price of the 6 base goons are 1,000 gold pieces apiece. This includes the tanning, the alchemical tempering, and even in the gathering the hide in question, and of course the inflation. In addition, there are 4 hides that are considered elite. If not due to the price, then by the sheer effort it would take to obtain them. Beholder, Ifriti, Frostworm, and Medusa. At a whopping cost of 15,000 gold pieces, 15k, and a leatherwork and craft DC of DC 20, it takes serious hooligans to consider trading up to these goons. There have been rumors of goons made from lich hide, mind flayer skin, and even rakshasa pelt, but these claims are quickly dismissed as drunken rants. And there is even a poor man's goon, though being seen with it kind of draws ridicule and jest from other hooligans. Very simple horses leather, created at normal leatherworking craft DC of 10 and a meager 100 GP. However, there is a powerful secret only privy to master hooligans in using simple leather goons. The basic training for a goon handling confers a +1 enhancement, or enchantment as it were, and the returning property, but only when a hooligan uses it. Otherwise, it is a masterwork improvised D4 weapon. So what this means is that when a hooligan picks up a goon and chooses to use it in any sort of combat proficiency, in their hands, basically when they use it in the fashions I'm going to explain, in their hands it becomes a +1 weapon, and it has a returning property. So it's already a +2 weapon. This means that because of what the returning property does for a weapon, when they use it at a distance, it will come back to them and give them as many attacks as they have around to be able to make better use of it, obviously. For the hides, I did want to do something special. I did pick 6 different, completely different creatures out of the monster manual to have really unique properties. Basically, the hides themselves will be innately special to a very small degree. Later on, the hooligan will be able to open up like advanced properties of it through themselves. It's not the hide. It's their actual imbuing of the hide because they use it. If you choose Rhino, you get to ignore 1 DR of any kind and 5 hardness whenever you're damaging objects. For Dragon, it's +1 damage of the dragon type, metallic or chromatic dragons only. No planar dragons, no gem dragons, none of it. So if you chose Red Dragon Hide, it will do the damage you do normally +1 fire damage. See? Howler, +2 piercing. It's kind of got like mini quills on it. A Kraken, +1 bludgeoning damage, and it ignores up to 20% concealment. Y comes in later. Dire Shark, +2 slashing damage because like the denticles on it. Sharks have denticles. And Viper, I wanted to do something different other than, oh, whoa, look, poison damage. +2 initiative. And 3 times a day you get to add +5 to the base speed of the hooligan. They're faster, they're quicker. So, for the elite hides, Beholder, these, and by the way, these will seem like really powerful, but considering it's like 15,000 to get a hold of one of these, for a Beholder, it's +2 on a crit range. So wherever you're the crit, and I'll explain that later, wherever the crit is, you get to drop it by 2 more. And on a crit, DC 17 sleep spell with no hit dice cap goes off with the person that's hit, obviously, and will negates the effect. Because one of the abilities of a Beholder is an actual sleep spell through one of their eyes. And a Freedy, +1 d6 fire damage that counts as divine fire, except that the entire d6 is divine, so not half. So a red dragon could be hit by an Afridi goon and take a d6 worth of fire damage for no reason. A Frostworm, a d4 cold damage, and a d4 sonic damage. I broke it down because they have some other extra abilities other than their huge like cold breath weapon. So I did 2 small dice's worth of damage. And a Medusa, it does piercing, bludgeoning, and slashing damage, kind of like a creature's bite does. and 1 strength damage with each successful hit, no save. It's what I came up with as opposed to poison, as opposed to the turning flesh to stone, the petrification effect. Now here's the thing, with horse leather, upon achieving Goon Training Advanced, using horse leather, which by the way, if you use it to begin with, you get no added bonuses, it's just a goon. Advanced Goon Training opens up a whole bunch of stuff. Let's skip that one for now, and I'll go back to it, because it'll ruin the surprise. So, at first, they get the ability called Bomb. Gain the ability to do a ranged power attack with the goon, allowing a penalty of up to the Hooligan's base attack bonus. I named it after lingo. Its effect, however, is still mechanically like ranged power attack. At second, the Hooligan must choose the ability to either do ranged disarms with the goon that is hucked. Hucked is a terminology that I created for this class. Whenever you use a goon for melee purposes, meaning you've gripped it and you're physically using it to bash somebody with in melee, that's called a crash. Whenever you throw it, that's called a huck. And whenever you kick it, that's called a punt. So at second level, the Hooligan must choose the ability to either do ranged disarms with a hucked, a thrown goon, or ranged trip attacks with a goon that's been punted or kicked. You have to choose one or the other. Goon Training at third. You get to add +1 of any weapon quality, be it a +1 or be it another in a property. Any +1 enchantment or enhancement is chosen and applied to the goon when the Hooligan uses it. Melee and range restrictions do still apply. Example, Far Shot is usable only whenever the goon is hucked or punted, not when it's crashed. So Far Shot would work, but not when you're using it as a melee, as a melee weapon. At third, you get an ability called Hook. Gain precise shot with the goon as per the feat. Simple. Fourth, fast movement +10 feet. Hooligan trains extensively with foot maneuvers and running drills. This applies to terrestrial movements only. Must be on the ground, or a solid ground. So no fast movement on the water. At fifth, Goon Training Advanced. It is at this time that a Hooligan becomes quite deadly with what is viewed as a toy. When crashed, meaning gripped and used as a bludgeoning melee weapon, flurry of blows may be applied if desired, using the Hooligan's total base attack referred to the monk chart on Player's Handbook, page 40. So they get the ability to start literally just beating the hell out of whoever they're in melee with. When hucked, when thrown, the goon becomes a 30-foot line, affecting all within a 5 by 5 by 30-foot area, sort of like a short lightning bolt, with only a single attack roll. But if it is a crit, all targets are critted on. Basically what it does is it hits off of their body, recoils, and it keeps on going is what it is. And when punted, as the advanced training, the far shot distance is tripled. So basically it's a huge, massive distance kick. And the Hooligan may freely change his target with every punt if desired, as long as it's within the distance. See, whenever it came to 3-5 combat, if you down somebody and you had cleave, you could take a 5-foot step and hit somebody else. But what if you didn't have cleave and you're surrounded? Do you get to change targets? I went on the errata, looked it up, and yeah, you can. So I decided with the punt ability, because it has the returning property, if you punt it and end up killing one of your opponents or a creature or whatever, and when it comes back to you, as long as it's within your punt distance, you can change targets to someone else. That way all your attacks aren't wasted. Okay, that was fifth. At sixth, I should go back to the, you're right. When achieving, for the horse leather gun, all crits multipliers become times 3. Because the way I worked it was a times 2 for everything. Upon achieving goon training plus 2, which was I'm fixing to talk about, the bonus that you get for using horse leather will actually be plus 3. I'm fixing to get into that. Yeah, goon training, any 2. The Hooligan chooses either a plus 2 enhancement, a plus 1 enchantment, a plus 1 enhancement, or a plus 2 enhancement. Basically, you could break it up any way you want to. So by now you're wielding a plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4. It would now qualify as a plus 5 weapon. However you wish to break it up. One of those is obviously returning, regardless of what else you chose. But it's only 2 whenever they use the goon. At 7, whatever ability that the Hooligan chose at second for the ranged disarm or ranged trips, they get the other one. And then 8th, stunts once a day. The Hooligan may freely choose to apply a stunt from the following list once a day. The general stunts are athletics, plus 10 to jump, climb, intimidate, and tumble for a 24-hour period. So basically you wake up and you choose an athletic stunt. For the next 24 hours, you get plus 10 to those skills. Howitzer, 0 range penalties on a single attack, punt only. Meaning that you would be able to go as far as possible, hit somebody way the hell off in the distance. No range penalties, once a day. Ricochet, treat a goon as a 30-foot max distance fireball, reflex DC 10, plus half a Hooligan's level total, total level, not just the Hooligan's level, plus the Hooligan's dex modifier. But you have to use a huck, you have to throw it. Basically, it hits, and then everybody within a 30-foot area gets ricocheted with it, and it comes back to you once a day. And then penalty kick. Again, lingo. Ignore 1 botch once a day and reroll. So for the hides, these are also stunts. See, there's the problem. You have this really cool list of just general stuff, and then there's hide stunts. You can still only choose it once a day. However, these do apply to all attacks in a round. So for a rhino, you ignore all DR and all hardness for 1 round. For a dragon, you add 1d8 of appropriate elemental damage for 1 round. So it means if you get 5 attacks, you'll get an extra 5d8 of your base elemental damage. For a howler, the target takes 1 wisdom damage for 1 round, crash only. Basically, you beat them stupid, is what you do. For a kraken, you ignore up to 50% concealment, and the attack becomes a touch for 1 round. Dire shark, plus 5 damage for 1 round. The bite damage is kind of what I'd equated it to. And viper, plus 10 initiative, and plus 20 to base speed for 24 hours. You could become super fast and super light on your feet for 24 hours if you chose to use the viper hide. Then there are elite hide stunts. For a beholder, and it applies to a single attack only. Disintegrate. Will DC 10 plus half the Hooligan's total levels plus the Hooligan's charisma modifier as per the spell. Basically, who you hit gets hit with a disintegration effect once a day for 1 attack. Ifriti, Bale for polymorphs, Fortitude negates, and Will for partial, like the spell. DC 10 plus half the Hooligan's level total plus the Hooligan's intelligence modifier. So you could hit a target and Bale for polymorph them. That's permanent. For a frostworm, a cone of cold effect, reflex for half, DC, same thing, but you add the Hooligan's wisdom modifier. Basically, whenever you punt it or throw it or crash it, it turns it into a cone of cold effect. And the Medusa, this is where the Medusa does get a little meaner than the rest, though. Petrifying strike, as per a gaze. Fortitude DC 10 plus half the Hooligan's level plus Hooligan's charisma modifier. It's mean, but it's only once a day. And if you save, you save. It's over. It's done. Nothing happens. At 9th, they get fast movement plus 20. This replaces the plus 10 they got at 4th. So they're really light and quick on their feet. That's why I did light armor. And then at 10th, you get stunts twice a day, though only one stunt may be activated in a round. The secret about using horse hide is because you actually get 3 stunts a day. That's the power of using something simple rather than using something extraordinarily special. The goon itself is a spherical inflated ball, roughly 30 centimeters in circumference. 30 centimeters? No, 30 inches. 30 inches, sorry. Inches? Yeah, 30 inches. That is made of hide of a particular creature, heat treated, alchemically treated, and then sealed. The chemical burning off process is what inflates it, and unless sundered, won't go flat or deflate. In the hands of a non-magical, or a non-hooligan, I should say, this is a weighty, improvised thrown weaponry. Follow all normal rules as such. That does a d4 plus strength. A hooligan, however, can turn this toy into a wrecking machine in 3 different ways. It's normally sized for a medium-sized creature. So it's a one-handed medium weapon, hardness 10, hit points 20, with 30-foot range. There you go. Crash, it's one-handed melee. Now, I did this differently. Normally, when you have a weapon, it is a set damage, and that's where you go from. I did this differently. Because a goon isn't a weapon, I actually set damage as a number rather than a die. So when you crash with a one-handed melee, it does 4 damage plus half your strength on a crit of a 19 to 20 times 2. For a huck, for a thrown, it does 6 damage plus your strength, crit 17 to 20 times 2. It's because you're a little more accurate whenever you're throwing it, because throwing weaponry is a normal thing in D&D. And when you punt it, it's a kicked projectile. It's 10 damage plus strength and a half, crit 20 times 3. The targets must be at least 10 feet away to punt. You can't punt at point blank range. Makes sense. But yeah, they're set damages rather than set damage die. Originally intended for medium-sized beings, a small hooligan would have the static damage of 2, 3, and 5, while a large hooligan doubles it, representing the hooligan's size change to 8, 12, and 20, although non-medium hooligans are very rare. I don't want hulking hurlers being hooligans. So there you go. It's kind of crazy, but I really like the concept, and I can't wait to actually get around to creating it. But there you go. It's a medium distance warrior who can add some nifty abilities as opposed to just taking a whole bunch of enchantments on a weapon that can be lost, broken, stolen, or whatever. Well, the goon could too, but the goon's at least unique, right? So there you go. So anyway, I definitely need to cut this one short. We ran 28 minutes and still counting. So thanks again to Revan Bespoke, who's on YouTube, also known as Dan Courtney in real life. And I said I'll leave his in the description to his YouTube channel. And yeah, next time, I don't know what we're going to talk about next time. I haven't made up my mind just yet. But yeah, until then, grab your dice and roll initiative.